We all know that Donald Trump had a really hard time picking his vice presidential candidate, which makes a lot of sense when you think about it. When your options are between senators that nobody really knows and people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, it becomes clear that there aren't really a whole lot of good options. So when Donald Trump ended up picking JD Vance, everyone was a little bit surprised because it was quite the odd pick. And as the hours go by, it feels like there are just more and more things coming out about JD Vance, which makes it seem like maybe he wasn't the right pick. And today, a new bombshell by NBC News was dropped on Donald Trump, his son, and JD Vance. Now, we'll get to that bombshell here in a second, but I want to touch on the fact that nobody likes JD Vance. And I'm not just talking about people on the left. People on the right don't like JD Vance. The more moderate Republican voters don't like him because he is very extreme on things like abortion. And the far-right MAGA voters don't like him because he's been critical on Trump in the past, and he has a wife that is not white. Yes, the racists don't like him either. Take a look at these clips of Republicans going against JD Vance.
JD Vance, who was picked by Donald Trump to be his vice president. Well, what do you make of that choice? What are your thoughts on that choice?
And JD Vance has aggressively parroted actual Russian talking points. So this, to me, he is a guy that was an anti-Trumper, that all of a sudden is the biggest pro-Trumper. He has no moral soul, no center, and how you can like Russia and what they're doing in Ukraine is beyond me.
JD Vance, in his own words.
I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him. As somebody who doesn't like Trump, I might have to hold my nose and vote for Hillary Clinton. I didn't vote for Trump because I can't stomach Trump. I think that he's noxious, him being really outrageous and offensive.
On Twitter, Vance called Trump, quote, reprehensible, an idiot, and Vance loves Mitt Romney.
I'm a never Trump guy.
That's the real JD Vance.
JD Vance also has a non-white wife, an Indian wife, and a kid named Vivek. All his kids have Indian names. So it's like, what exactly are we getting here? And that's not a dig at him just because I'm a racist or something. But it's like, who is this guy really? Do we really expect that the guy who has an Indian wife and named their kid Vivek is going to support white identity? Like, there's a white genocide going on in the world. White people are being systematically replaced in America and Europe through immigration and to a much lesser extent due to intermarrying. This guy has a non-white wife and a kid named Vivek. This guy is going to be a defender of white identity? I don't think so. This guy's going to defend American identity? If he does, it's going to be no better than any of these other civic nationalists like Vivek Ramaswamy. How else could you countenance American identity if you have a mixed up family like that?
So with nobody really liking JD Vance, the question becomes, how did he even become the vice presidential pick? Well, that's what our breaking news story today is all about. Now, this report comes from NBC News, so let's go ahead and take a look at that article. With the clock ticking to the Republican National Convention last week, Donald Trump met privately to discuss his running mate search with two of his closest advisors, his sons. So yes, even just last week, Donald Trump had no idea who to pick. He was really struggling with this decision. So much so that he had to go talk to his sons about it. The conversation quickly turned tense when the former president indicated that he was leaning more towards Doug Burgum, who until recently was a largely unknown governor of North Dakota. Now, the reason why Trump was originally going for Doug was because he was a no-drama personality who would never threaten to outshine Trump. And that's when Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump chimed in. And according to this Republican operative familiar with the discussion, Don Jr. and Eric went batshit crazy, saying, quote, "Why would you do something so stupid? He offers us nothing." Continuing saying they were basically all like JD, JD, JD. So this is basically saying that the choice to go with JD Vance was entirely Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump, which is a really interesting choice to me because I have no idea why they would be choosing him. Trump ratified his son's recommendations here Monday, selecting Senator JD Vance of Ohio as his vice presidential candidate. Trump called Vance with the news 20 minutes before announcing it on social media, a source familiar with the call said. And even though the discussion with his sons was about a week ago, he only made this decision officially yesterday, 20 minutes before announcing it. So that to me tells me that Trump was really unsure of JD Vance as a pick. And I think this article makes another good point. JD Vance has a reputation for hot rhetoric at a time when national leaders, including Trump, are urging cooler heads in the wake of the assassination attempt on Trump last week. Now, as we know, Trump has had a history of throwing his vice president under the bus. And not only was he basically pressured into choosing JD Vance, it already feels like Donald Trump maybe isn't the best of friends with him yet, especially considering that JD Vance has said a lot of critical things about Trump in the past. So we'll just have to wait and see if this situation improves or if Trump ends up really hating JD Vance and really regretting this decision. But overall, at least from an outside perspective, this decision to choose JD Vance really seems to be exploding in Donald Trump's face. And at least I think the general consensus of the Republican Party is that this was the wrong pick. But we'll just have to wait and see if the Republicans choose to band together and get behind JD Vance, or if this is going to forever put a wedge in Donald Trump's campaign. But either way, at least right now, it's not looking good for JD Vance.